Hello, and welcome to That Girl Magic, the podcast where we explore the transformative power of wellness, self improvement, and magic. I am your host, Karinna Franco, and I'm thrilled to embark on this journey of discovery with you. Hi, everybody. So, welcome to the first ever episode. I am so excited to be starting. And to be honest, I want to just start right away. Um, just to give you a little background on who I am for this first episode before we jump right in. My name is Karina, and I am in love with wellness. I love wellness. I love nutrition. I love all aspects of it. And then also, I am a witch. I am a witchy, magical witch. And I love spreading my message and my information that comes through me in all kinds of aspects. I love the spiritual, witchy side of myself, and I also love the methodical, mental awareness, and also all of the self improvement and wonderful things that comes with making ourselves feel better. That's why I decided to call the podcast That Girl Magic, because I want to involve all the sides that come from the that girl trend of the wellness and making yourself feel good and growing yourself and becoming a better version of who you already are, just improving the sides of yourself that you feel like you need to improve and change to get yourself into a point in your life where you're like, you know what, this is the best that I can be, and that's all you gotta be. And also all the witchy sides, the manifesting and the lunar cycles and all kinds of witchy stuff that we'll talk about. Today, I actually want to tell you a little bit of my story and also about stuff that helped me along the way. So let's get it started. First, I must tell you, if you hear a little bit of a witty bitty teeny tiny little sound, it might be my little puppy dogs. They're currently sleeping besides me, so if you hear a little bit of sound, it could be them. Um, but first, let us get started with a story. My whole journey with wellness and self discovery and self improvement started, to be honest, with COVID-19 of the 2020s. Throughout these 4 years that have passed since 2020, I have really shifted and changed as a person. And what a lot of people don't know, unless they were in my vicinity or they were around me during that time, is that I had a lot of things going wrong in my body, in my mind, in my emotional realm. And I had all these things going wrong. I broke my foot in the end of 2019 to the beginnings of 2020. I escaped COVID 19's wreckage on the job market because I was leased and let go of my job before all that. So I had a lot of support from my government with a lot of pay to the people that had just been recently let go. At the same time, my gut had been having issues. I had awful diarrhea for the longest time. I only knew myself having looser stool, and I was constantly going to the bathroom every 5 to 15 minutes. I was even concerned if I had some sort of colon cancer or intestinal cancer for the longest time, to the point that I did multiple exams. I was constantly in and out of doctors. My thyroid got worse. I developed an autoimmune disease related to already the issues that I had with my thyroid. And I was just feeling worse and worse and worse as time went by. And it got to the point and it broke off in a major way once my sweet little puppy Flower passed away. She passed away tragically in December of 2020, and it was horrible. It was one of the most difficult moments in my life because she had already been suffering with cancer for about 6 months. It was a very quick, very excruciatingly painful cancer. We tried everything that we could to make her feel better and reduce some of her pain. But to be honest, I was greedy. I wanted her with me. She was a lifeline that I had. She was one of my biggest emotional supports. To this day, I call her my medical pet because, to be honest, she was my stress reliever. She was my little angel. And her death made such a toll on me that I got into what I like to call a depressive episode, or at least a depressive moment in my life. It got so bad that I didn't want it to do anything. I didn't want it to get out of bed. I couldn't know what to do. I didn't want it to work. I didn't want it to work out or eat healthily. I didn't care about my health at the time. I was just full of grief. And with the coming of later on, about 6, 7 months later, of my new puppy, my Sienna, my cute little fur ball, it made me realize how much trauma I was holding in my body. I was struggling a lot. I was holding myself in such a negative space that when she had a moment of slight sickness, just because of a small little thing, it made me have the reaction of panic. I was in complete and outer panic because I was just having a trauma reaction, almost like PTSD, because I had lost one dog in a tragic way. I believed I was going to lose another one that had just come in. And that moment made me realize how much I needed help. And I did a 360. I changed my diet completely. I went vegan all the way until about a year ago. I changed my diet. Besides being vegan, I removed gluten. I reduced the fat content in my diet. I increased the fiber by so much. I was consuming so many fruits, so many veggies, feeding my body with what I needed and what it wanted. And besides the whole nutrition part of it, my mindset was changing. The way that I was thinking was changing. I had to create a connection with parts of myself that were in a trauma response. I realized that I was having a bad relationship with men in my life because of the bad relationship that I had with my father. I had to release the pressure of the fact that my father, that made me feel so badly throughout my whole life, I had to release myself from that connection and just create a separation to allow the men in my life, whether it be friends, co-workers, or even my grandfather, which was the closest thing that I had to a fatherly figure. I had to let them be a safe port of my life, which I wasn't letting. And also, going back to the mental side of it and the emotional side of it, I had a really, really hard time connecting with my child self because, due to my father leaving so early in my life and divorcing my mother in such a brutal um, and mean and unforgiving way, I, at 10 years old, had to realize that relationships are not roses and rainbows, they're hard work. But I couldn't understand that back then. I was a child. I understand that now. I understand that after having relationships with people, but I couldn't understand that at 10 years old. So I grew up really fast. I became an adult in my mind. And now I have to reconnect with my inner child self and reconnect with that little girl and tell her that she's safe and tell her that she can be giggly, that she can be fun, that she can be loud, that she can sing and dance whenever she wants, because I stopped dancing. I stopped singing. I stopped being myself for the longest time. I just thought I have to work, I have to get a home. At the time, I was dating a person for quite a few years, and I thought I need to make a home, I need to get married, I need to have children, I need to have the typical life. But I didn't need the typical life. I needed to heal myself first. How can I create a home? How can I create a life if I'm not okay? So I had to heal myself. And the healing myself came with the diet changes. It came with the journaling and getting deep into my shadows and my traumas and understanding and healing. A lot of crying, a lot of crying. I've had nights where I went to bed crying and I kept crying. There has been times where I made sure no one was home. And you know those clips that sometimes we see in movies or even people that we see in the news where they let out those gut wrenching cries. I had to let out my own version of a gut wrenching cry because I was killing the part of myself that I believed that I was. And it was the most difficult thing that I had to go through. And the only thing that, looking back now, I could say to myself then is, I'm so glad you went through that. I'm so happy that you went through that, because who I am now has nothing to do with who I was. And there was one thing, and I want to make this a segment, is talking about stuff that helped me, specific stuff, whether it be a person or a book. And today I want to talk about a book in particular. I want to talk about a book called Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life by Garen Jones. Amazing author, an amazing coach. I found him through a random YouTube video that popped up in my recommended. Loved his message, connected with it at the time. We're talking around 2021, 2022. And I really connected with his story, and I decided to get his book at the time. At this time, I am still in the trenches when I get this book. We're talking about a really relatively thin book. If you're an avid reader, you probably will read this really fast because I read it in a matter of like 2 to 3 hours. And there were two moments in this book that made me realize why I connected with it so much. So, just a little background on the book. This book talks about Garen's story itself. So, Garen tells us how he changed his mindset, which then changed his life. He was homeless for quite a few years. He had a bad relationship with his daughter. And he tells us the moments that led him to changing his life, the things that he had to deal with, the disconnections that he had with himself. And there are two particular things that I love about this book. One, the fact that he tells everything in text and in a very talkative way, just like I'm talking with you right now. And also the fact that he added illustrations to further move his message. And there's two illustrations in particular that connected with me because they're graphic like illustrations. We're talking a mix of imagery with text. One of them, that to me was the moment that it made me realize, were in the first few pages. And this message hit me hard because at the time I was going through the changes. At the time, I was still not fully into my awakening, into the resolution of who I was, but I was starting to discover all the things that I needed to change, all the trauma I needed to heal, all the messaging that I was doing to myself, all the negative messaging. And this image in particular has a really interesting part of the text. And one of the things is that it talks about this invisible wall of fear. What he means by this wall of fear is the fact that we create this shield that is all of the thoughts that we have that prevent us from going forward, from pursuing our dreams, from pursuing our goals. Like if you like this one person, you're afraid of telling them how you feel because you're afraid of what might happen. And so many examples similar to that. You are afraid of going to the gym because maybe you are overweight or really skinny, but you just want to go for feeling healthy, but you're scared of being judged. You don't want to go and send your resume to that one company because you're scared that you're going to be underqualified and be rejected. We create these walls of fears to prevent us from going further in our lives. And I created my own walls of fear, and all of them were related to who I really was. I shut down who I was when my child self decided I needed to be an adult. And I created this idea of what an adult is. So in this image, it is, if you actually have the book, you can actually find it. It's on page 17. This image says, these are limiting stories. It shows you his own drawing version of what is the wall of fear, which is a bunch of black scribble in a circular shape. And then it has two pieces of text. Those two pieces of text say two things. And I quote, "The compound effect of these limiting stories create distractions, which over time result in resistance that leads to fear, which zaps your passion and stops you from reaching your own goals and dreams." End quote. That text didn't really shook me up because I was already understanding part of his messaging. But there's a difference in between understanding the message and getting it through your head. And what came next on that same image is what made me cry so hard that I had to just put a bookmark and just let myself cry for like 10 minutes, because it made me realize about the inner negative thoughts that I was having with my head, and the fact that of the list that he created here, about half of them was exactly what I was saying to myself for years. It shook me and it broke me. And I quote, "I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I don't matter. I need to survive. I'm not seen or heard. Nobody loves me. I can't get anything right. I'm broke. I'm scared. I'm not good at this. I don't trust people. I am always late. My parents don't love me." Oof. When I tell you, the first one was the one that killed me while I read this book. This goddamn page. I cannot tell you how much it changed in my brain. The idea that a sentence that I told myself in a negative way, when I tell you all the time, I mean literally all the time. I thought to myself all the time, I am not good enough. I repeated it so many times. If I failed a test in school, I'm not good enough. If I couldn't run fast enough, I'm not good enough. If I tried to go on a diet to lose weight, I'm not good enough. If I couldn't do something, if I couldn't accomplish something, if I couldn't finish something, I would tell myself I'm not good enough. And that moment broke me down. And I literally cried for like a good 10, 15 minutes because I could not believe that I had the same thoughts as someone else. And I know that may sound weird, like, oh, how could you not assume that people have similar thoughts? I felt so alone in that time of my life that I could not believe that this random person from a different upbringing, from a different life experience, at a different age than me, that already had a partner, that already had a child, that already was partially successful in my mind, right? Someone that had been together with someone that had already had children. And now this person writing that was a millionaire, this person had similar thoughts to me. This person had similar experience of life as me, of having these thoughts of unworthiness. And it felt crazy. So to me, I turned to health. When I started to do my shift and my change and move things along in my life, health, wellness was this one bullet, this arrow that pointed me in to me in the right way. And something interesting is that in page 42 of his book, you find this one image that has just text. It's like a black rectangle with white text on it. In page 42, that says, "Why is being healthy so important?" And then he breaks it down. Your health affects your heart. What you do to your heart affects how you feel. How you feel affects the way you think. How you think affects the way you speak. How you speak affects your actions. And your actions affect the outcome of your life. This book and my experience of my own life made me realize that 90% of my problems were 100% of my doing. I'll repeat that again. 90% of my problems were 100% of my doing. What I mean by that is it means that I had a portion of things that I could not control. I could not control how people treated me, but I could control how I reacted. I couldn't control how people treated me, but I could control how I let them affect me. I couldn't control what happened in my surroundings, but I could react in a different way. I could control the way I reacted to things. I could control my choices. I could control the things that I believed I had no control. I can eat healthy and I can make the choice to eat healthy instead of letting my family cook for me where they have a typical, more basic, unhealthier diet. I can choose to work out. I don't need to go to a gym to be active. I could just walk outside. If I have money, I can spend money on a basic gym equipment, a yoga mat, a couple of weights, some resistant bands. But if I don't want to spend any money, all I need is just clothing. You just need a pair of shoes, a pair of pants, and a shirt and go outside and walk. There's probably some sort of open field area that you can just do a couple exercises. If you're listening to me right now, most likely you have a phone or a computer that you are able to access and see a YouTube video of a workout. So why should I let people around me, my surroundings, dictate my own life? I was people pleasing for others. It wasn't for me. It gave me no benefit. People pleasing, all it did is made me feel, all it did was make me feel like crap. All it did was hurt me. All it did was me having this collection of things that did not connect with me because people gave me gifts that had nothing to do with me. And don't get me started with the victim mentality that I had of I have a bad job because that's what I deserve. I have a bad job because my boss treats me like crap. I have a bad job because my management is shit. I left those jobs and I went into other jobs that kept treating me badly. Why? Because I kept working for companies that treated people badly. I put myself in that position because the moment that they treated badly, if I had stood up for myself and defended myself, not in a rude way, not in a mean way, but just say, hey, don't raise your voice to me. Don't treat me badly. We're having a conversation here. And I didn't put those boundaries. You want to know why? Because people, and fairly, are terrified because they have bills to pay, because they have people to take care of, and they need the money. Because unfortunately, we have created money as this thing of people wanting to get, because unfortunately, it's necessary for you to eat, for you to drink, for you to be able to have a roof above your head. But I had to change the narrative of how I felt. That's why 90% of my issues were 100% my problem, because I was creating issues that I could fix. I felt unhealthy. I had to eat better. I had to work out. My mental health was struggling. I had to create boundaries and I had to heal my negative thoughts. My emotional health was a wreck because I was letting people's opinions of me dictate who I was. I was letting people that didn't walk in my shoes to have an opinion about my life and about my own way of seeing the world. I was letting people's ways of seeing their version of their own world affect how I see mine. That's why religions exist. That's why his way of seeing the world exists, because we all have different perspectives. But I let people's perspectives affect my own. I let people, whether they had nothing to do with me, whether they were friends, whether they were family or coworkers, dictate who I should be, how I should act, how I should portray myself, to the point that right now I'm talking to you in my normal voice. I've had people telling me that my voice is annoying. I've had people tell me that I should use a telephone voice to sound better. So I should change the timbre of my voice. So instead of me just focusing on being clear to you, I should focus on sounding good to you. That doesn't make sense. Why should I change myself? And now I am someone completely different. I am not the person that I was 4 years ago. So here's my advice for those in a similar situation. Look around you. Look at your friends. Look at your family. Look at the people around you and tell yourself, is this person doing good by me or bad by me? Do I need to put boundaries to be able to be with this person? Look at your coworkers and do the same. Look at your family, look at your friends. Create boundaries. Realize what is important to you and what you need to block to be able to be yourself. If you're someone like many others out there that doesn't like to be hugged, doesn't like to be kissed, doesn't like to be that, create that boundary. If you don't want to be treated with disrespect, don't allow it. And I know it's easier said than done. I know it's easier to come on here and say for you to just rapidly change your life and change your surroundings because it's not easy. But here's one thing that I want to make sure that it comes across. I don't know what point in your life you are. I don't know you. You're listening to me. I don't see you. I don't hear your voice. But here's what I can tell you. If at any point you resonated with me, let me tell you this one thing. You cannot, and I'll repeat again, you cannot let yourself just go along with the ride. Because going along with the ride means that 90% of the times to 100% of the times, you will do good by others instead of yourself. You need to do good by you. You need to make yourself feel good because at the end of the day, when everyone goes to bed, when everyone goes home and no one texts anymore, when no one calls anymore, who do you have? You only have yourself. And are you really going to make yourself be unhappy to be with yourself? A lot of people don't like to be alone. A lot of people, when they spend more than 5 minutes alone, they start to either talk to themselves or they put noise in the background. Have you ever sat in silence? When I mean silence, I mean true silence. You don't hear the washing machine going. You don't hear the TV on. You don't hear the dogs barking, the children running. Just pure silence. You want to know where you're going to get that? Nature. Go out into nature. Sit at the base of a tree in the middle of nowhere and listen to the silence. If you are an anxious person, you are going to feel weirdly bad at first. And then if you force it, you will feel this calm sensation burst through you. Because we live in this buzzy, constantly going hustle culture and get this and get that. And I want to be a millionaire and a billionaire and all that. Like, that means nothing. What's the point of money and success and luxury if we feel like shit? What's the point? Care for yourself. Love yourself. So let me give you a challenge. Here's what you're going to do. Get yourself to a place where you can be 5 minutes in pure silence. Pure silence. Whether it be you're alone in the house, the middle of nature, inside of a room. It could even be while you're at work, like sometimes they have those like little booths that sometimes are like 100% soundproof. Even if it's that, 5 minutes. Don't think of anything. Don't talk to yourself in your head. Just focus on your breath. Focus on your breathing. And then ask yourself, what could I do to change what I don't like so that I can change my life. And if you have your answer, then just do it. Just go for it. Just do whatever comes to mind. Change whatever you know that you can change. And some people will not like you. You will do things where people will feel a resistance to what you're doing. I had that. I had family members that were like, you changed. Good, that's the point. The point is changing. As human beings, we are designed to evolve. So evolve. Don't forget to follow That Girl Magic to stay updated on new episodes. Let's unleash our inner magic and create the life of our dreams. I'll see you in the next episode.